Hi everyone, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Matters podcast. I always say this, but I'm really excited about the guest that we have today. We have a returning guest, Lara Clark from the Figure Academy. She joined us in 2021 for a podcast. And if you haven't listened to it, I would stop this one right here and go back and listen to a podcast called Finances, Impossible or Nah. And Lara kind of unpacks some key pillars to financial literacy and kind of actually what the Figure Academy is all about. But why I'm really excited about this podcast is because we're speaking to Lara and having the Figure Academy sort of one year and a little bit in practice and in running. So I think there's just going to be so many gems and so much insight that's going to come out of our next few minutes together. So yes, Lara, thank you so much again for joining us. We're so excited for what's gonna come from it.
Thank you for having me. It's such an honor to be here again. I'm very excited as well.
Well, for our first-time guests who are choosing to not go back and listen to the first podcast, why don't we unpack a little bit? Tell us, maybe just give a little bit of insight into Lara, who you are, but then also the Figure Academy. What is the Figure Academy, and what is sort of the biggest heart and mission behind it?
Absolutely. So, as Tammy said, I'm Lara Clark. I'm a chartered accountant by profession. So I studied at UCT, then I did my articles. And when I got to the end of my article career, I decided, no, corporate life is just not for me. There is more to life than this. And I took a bit of time off, which coincided with the height of COVID, which was actually great. The world stopped and so did I. And in that time, I reflected on what are my passions, what do I love to do, what do I not like to do. And out of that, the Figure Academy was born. And it combined my love of accounting and tax and finance, because I know it sounds super nerdy, but I really loved what I studied and what I ended up doing for 8 years of my life. But then there's also this part of me that enjoys mentoring, coaching, teaching. And so I built the Figure Academy to combine those two passions. And so the goal of the Figure Academy, our big, hairy, audacious goal, is to empower entrepreneurs with financial literacy and not create that dependability program or model where someone will employ a bookkeeper or an accountant and rely on them every month or every 6 months, whatever it might be, and they have no idea what that person's actually doing, whether it's right or wrong. Rather, my stance is to empower that entrepreneur with the knowledge themselves so that they can do it themselves. They can then go forth and conquer, and they can employ someone, they can outsource it, or they can do it themselves because they have the tools and knowledge and the equipment to do it.
No, this is an unpaid ad. I was fortunate enough to do Lara's course called Nail Your Business Numbers in 2021. And when I say this course literally changed my life, it literally changed my life. Just because I think one of the biggest things is when you're thinking of starting a business, there's so many considerations to take into account, especially if you're wanting to kind of register as a private company. There's so many regulations you need to think of, and this course really helped me feel confident in what I was doing. And I studied accounting. I did a little bit of it in high school. I would say I'm quite comfortable with numbers. It doesn't really scare me. However, when I came to applying, all these years of theoretical knowledge to, what do I do with it? I see this bank statement coming in every month, but I have no idea how to actually make this meaningful information and make business decisions based off of it. And that's exactly the skill that the Nail Your Business Numbers course sort of empowered me with, so much so that when the Jumpstart team actually went away at the end of last year, I was like, no guys, I'll do the finance session, don't worry. And I came there with my spreadsheet. I was the only one who thought it was really cool. I thought it was going to be this big moment. I worked so hard, also because I kind of didn't know what I was doing until the course. I sat for 1 week and did financial statements for a whole year in 1 week. I would not recommend that. No. But I was like, no guys, I'll do this. And I was really impressed with my slideshow and my spreadsheet, not so much everybody else. But just to say that this course was really helpful in doing just that, empowering business owners with that financial literacy that's That's so lacking. So yeah, thank you from my side for that and all that it's added. But yeah, maybe a year into the Figure Academy, what has been some of your just the biggest lesson that you've learned?
Don't give up.
Yeah.
Don't give up. So the Figure Academy is now a year old. We're in February and it's February, so it's a year old. And just don't give up. It's so overwhelming starting a business, and there's so much that you have to learn, so much that you have to do.
Yeah.
And there are so many times that I just thought, what am I even doing here?
Yeah.
You know, you feel like you're banging your head against a wall that just never wants to move. But somehow you just keep going and you reinvent the wheel, you take initiative, you improvise, you implement, you learn from the mistakes, you then re-improvise, re-implement, and you try again. And somehow, if you just keep going and you just keep trying and you don't give up, you will eventually get there.
Yeah.
And that's what my biggest lesson is don't give up. And I'm so glad that I didn't, because I'm here a year later. The business is still alive and kicking. It's still going strong. And yeah, there was a lot of times where I thought, no, it's fine. If I just stop the Figure Academy, there's only like a few people who know about it. No one will even notice that I'm gone.
Yeah.
But then you just keep going.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that I did. So it's not going to be easy, but just don't give up and just keep going. That's my greatest lesson that I learned in the last year. Yeah, definitely wasn't easy, but I'm glad I didn't give up.
Yeah. Was there a moment in the first year of running, I guess, where you like really felt like, okay, this was kind of the last straw and I think I'm going to pull the plug on the Figure Academy? Would you say there was a moment like that, or not so much? Like it was kind of just as you went along, you felt like there were mini moments along the way?
Lots of little moments in the things that I don't have skills at, that I'm not strong at, that I had to learn and upskill myself in.
Yeah.
And it's there where you get extremely frustrated.
Yes.
At least I did. And I find that a lot of the time that you spend in your business isn't actually in the areas that you're good at, especially if you're a one-man show.
Yeah.
And so you're spending a lot of time literally feeling like you're drowning in deep water. And so it was a culmination of lots of little things, from the content creation side of things to the web development side of things, and all of those things. It takes a lot of time, effort, and perseverance to push through and figure out and get to where you want to be. But no, there wasn't one big thing that happened. I think it was just a culmination. And every few months when I'd have to do, some new web thing for my website or whatever, then I'd think, sure, well, it would be much easier to give up than to try push through this. But you just keep going.
I love what you said about there's so much in running a business. You do, it's almost like the smallest percentage of what you do is actually what you know, which is a really good perspective, because when you think of your business idea and sort of this product or service, it's like, this is the one thing that I can actually offer the world and I can do. Yeah. But when you actually are practicing it, you do, that's like the 20%, and the 18% is everything else. You kind of like, you kind of not good at. What did that, like, when you realized that, what did that kind of feel like?
Very overwhelming. Because like you say, you start a business thinking, okay, well, now I can do what I really love. For me, I can do the accounting and the tax and help businesses with their accounting and tax and giving them that knowledge. But then I spend most of my days doing content creation, Facebook ads, pixel tracking, web development, email marketing tools, learning how to set up a blog. Like, that's where most of my days go. Every time you want to implement something new, you have to figure out the tech tools behind it, all the back-end stuff before you can bring it forward to market, essentially. So that is where I spend most of my time, and it's not that I'm not good at any of those. I didn't know any of them a year ago. I had to learn it all. So that's
and props to you for keeping, just taking that next step and putting one foot in front of the other. I think that's a message that we kind of all need to, we could all just hear over and over again, is how how do I take, run the next sprint, but how do I actually just put my next step in, how do I put my next foot in front of the other and just keep taking that next step forward. And sort of one last question around this theme is, what has surprised you most about entrepreneurship? You left a corporate career, a very grueling corporate career, but what has surprised you most about the entrepreneurship journey that you've been on?
You need such a diverse range of skills to run a business and to start one, especially if you're a one-man show and you don't have a team around you who has the skills that you don't. So that diverse set of skills that's needed is something but you don't know until it actually comes time to implementing it, and then you realize, oh my goodness, I need a website. Okay, how do I make a website? Or I need to run ads for whatever I'm selling. How do I set up my ads? And so the thing that surprised me the most is all of those things are where I end up spending most of my time, and that's great, and I've learned so much, but I didn't recognize or realize that beforehand in terms of how much of my time would go into the things that I don't have skills at yet, need to learn and implement by myself without having a team, without having anyone to bounce things off. And that surprised me quite a lot.
What I've, in conversation that we've had previously, what you've also said is sometimes you'll like outsource a small portion, you kind of like learn from them, and then you can like figure out and then implement along the way. I love that. Let me actually just connect up with someone who can give me the basics, that can teach me a little bit about this, and then I can actually get comfortable to implement this and run this forward. And then also, if you're not able to take on, a full team, a full marketing team, a full, web developer full time, which I think is a position that more entrepreneurs are in than not. But sometimes it can be so just crucial to make that initial investment to help get you started and help get you on the road, because we can't do everything and we can't wear every hat as a 100% expert in the field.
And that's really helped me a lot. We spoke about that privately once. Yes, and I said, eventually with Facebook ads, for example, I just lost the will to live. I was like, this is just terrible. I need a pro to help me with this because I cannot do this by myself. So I got someone who freelances to help me. But when I had the introductory call, I said, I would like for you to teach me as we go. So that I have the skills myself, and I'm not completely reliant on you, because you have your own job and your own other things, and if I need something done, I need to be able to do it myself. And that went for web development and all of that. So, but the thing is, you do have to spend a little bit of money in order to get that knowledge. But that for me was an amazing thing that I did more in the second half, not the first 6 months, but the second 6 months. And that really, really helped. And now I don't necessarily use them as frequently or as often, and I can do a lot of it by myself. But they would sit with me and explain, okay, this is how it works, this is how it goes, this is how you do it. And that really, really helps. So I would definitely recommend outsourcing the things that you're not good at, but not necessarily outsourcing it 100% and turning a blind eye. It's more to outsource and empower yourself with that skill and that knowledge, and then you now have it and you can implement it into your own business, and then you're not completely reliant on that person.
Sure. I love what you were also saying about, putting that initial amount to someone who actually knows what they are doing in the particular field, and not seeing it just as it's an expense and I'm just gonna it's a once-off and I'll kind of write it, but actually it's an investment into yourself and into your entrepreneurship journey, and even into the business. And I think that's something that we can all really learn from, because we in reality, like, there's so many things we don't know, that 80% we really, really don't know, and we could all lean on somebody else and somebody else's expertise. And I guess that's why I even like, that's the entrepreneurship value creation, is because, okay, I'm running a business and I'm getting a little bit of money in, which gives me, the buying power to, pour into somebody else's business, who will then also require somebody else along the value chain. And that's how, like, economic activity happens. And that's like just desperately what our country needs at the moment, is that economic activity, that job creation that's created through all of these mini interactions, because we don't always see the full effect of the supply chain ripple effect, and what somebody's able to the economic activity somebody's able to generate off the back of that type of sale. The Nail Your Business Numbers course, which is kind of your like flagship, the Figure Academy's flagship course. This is the one I was talking about, the one that makes you a pro. Tyler, you've ran a few of them over the last year. What would you say is the overarching skill that you found is lacking in terms of financial management, financial literacy amongst entrepreneurs?
That's a great question. And a year ago, my answer I think would have been quite different. But reflecting back on the students that have come through the course in the last year, I'd say the overarching skill that's lacking is they don't know how profitable their business is.
Wow.
Yeah. So when the students start the course, and you'll remember this, you have a little form to fill out with, I think it's 7 or 10 questions just on your business. And one of the ones is, how profitable has your business been for the last 2 years, if you know? And I haven't had anyone be able to tell me how profitable their business is. And that's very scary, because you're in business to make money.
Yeah.
You're in business to make a profit. How can you not know if you've made a profit or not? I understand month to month it's hard to know, like in January, did I make a profit? Okay, that's, it's a bit pinpricky. But over a year to say, I've been in business now for 4 years and you actually have no idea whether you've made a profit or not is very scary.
Yeah.
So that's what concerns me the most, to be honest. And that's what I am striving to change with the Figure Academy, is with the right tools and the knowledge and the templates, people can actually calculate their profitability quickly and fast, as you know. But that skill that's lacking is just, it frightens me.
Yeah.
And people have no idea how much sales they've made. They have no idea what their expenses are or how much they are. And then they have no idea if they're profitable or in a loss making. What ends up happening is, once we put the numbers down, most of the businesses I work with are actually making a loss. And they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this. And then they're still going out and buying stock.
Yeah.
They are still spending money on photo shoots. And I'm looking at this saying, well, you're not even making a profit.
Yeah.
We need to look at your sales. We need to look at your costing, your margins, to determine how can you really bring money into the business before you just spending.
Yes.
And the second thing that this leads into is tax. And I know everyone panics about tax, but most people who I've seen come through the course have no idea, one, if their tax is up to date, and two, they have no idea if the person who's doing their taxes is doing it right or wrong.
Yeah.
I've had people come to me after the course saying, I've spoken to my tax person and I've overpaid in tax because they weren't implementing a whole bunch of things because they didn't understand my business.
Yeah.
Or vice versa, saying, whoa, my tax person didn't know half of the stuff, and I've actually underpaid in tax, and now you have penalties. So that leads on from not knowing your profitability, because if you know if you're in a profit or a loss position and how much that profit is, that leads into your tax.
Yeah.
And so those are the two things that I've seen literally throughout basically everyone, and that scares me a lot. And that's what I'm trying to change with the Figure Academy, and that's what the Nail Your Business Numbers course does, is empower those entrepreneurs with the knowledge and the tools themselves, so that they can go to their tax person and say, I should be paying 5,000 Rand in tax. Why is my bill 10,000 Rand, or why is my bill 1,000 Rand?
Wow.
And it all stems from knowing your profitability.
Yeah. That's very interesting. I had no idea that would have been an overarching theme, not knowing whether you are profitable or not. But I guess it kind of it makes sense. Sitting on the other side, having to actually run the numbers, it kind of does make sense why you kind of don't know that. And one thing I think for me, what I've learned is to know the difference between cash flow. So there's money in the bank account, which kind of makes you feel like you're profitable, and the difference between cash flow and having a positive cash flow and profitability. What could you maybe just unpack that a little bit, speak into cash flow versus profitability, and how you maybe treat those differently and some things to look out for?
Yeah, so your profitability is looking at your income and your expenses and saying how much of your income is actually left over after you've paid all your expenses. Your cash flow is what's sitting in your bank accounts. You can be paid for a job now that you did 3 months ago. Or you can, the other way around, you can pay someone in 3 months for something that they did for you now. So your income and your expenses, so your profitability at the end of the day will differ quite a lot to your cash flow, because your cash flow is what's coming in and out of your bank account, whereas your profitability is what's actually happened for your business in that month. So that's where they can differ quite greatly. A lot of businesses, it ends up being very similar, even if there's a slight payment timing difference from one month to the next. It just impacts month to month, like those 2 months. But that's the main thing. And a lot of people look at the bank account and say, "Ooh, it's flush. I've got so much cash in here. Let's go spend." But then the next month, no one paid them, and now there's nothing in the bank account, and now they have all their bills to pay, and they didn't keep any cash for that. So that's the concern that comes with using your bank and your cash as your guide for how profitable your business is.
No, that's good. I also think another learning was the tax side. What have you seen like on the tax front with some small businesses, and like even like tax education, and how much people know about tax and what they can, I don't want to say get away with, because we don't want any tax evaders. But what have you seen on the tax front in terms of how businesses can actually use tax to their advantage, and it doesn't always have to be, how do they lessen that amount, and how does the Nail Your Business numbers help you identify how you can actually work tax to a little bit to your advantage?
Absolutely. It's just the first thing on tax that I want to say, and people can laugh if they want, but paying tax is actually a privilege, because it means you're earning. If you're not paying tax, you're not earning. Actually, at the end of the day. So you need to remember that first and foremost. And absolutely, there are things that you can do to make your tax bill less. By no means must you go and take the income that you earn and pay the tax on that. There's a lot that SARS says, no, well, hang on. There's a lot that went into earning that income that you're allowed to minus, because you had to spend a lot to make that money. And so that's their perspective on it. And so it's knowing, and this is what one of the modules in the Nail Your Business Numbers course does, is what are those expenses for you and your business that you can actually minus, and it's completely legal, and SARS absolutely wants you to and encourages you to write off those expenses. But most people don't know what they are. And so they don't know, should I run this in my personal name, in my business? And it's understanding those rules and principles and then implementing it for your business to make your tax bill legally lower. And that, I think, has been so helpful to a lot of the students, is actually analyzing the expenses of their business and their personal life and saying, well, hang on, these are the ones that should be in the business. This is what leads to you generating your income for your business. And so like that, we can reduce your tax bill quite a bit. And so, that's what we do in one of the modules in the Nail Your Business Numbers course. And everyone actually in the feedback always says, I love the tax module. I love the tax module. Because I think tax is something that everybody has to pay. Everybody. And we never get taught it, ever, actually. Unless you studied tax or accounting and got the tax side of things. You were never actually taught how to do it. And so everyone seems to really, really enjoy that. And I love teaching it. I love tax. Don't know why, but I just do. So I enjoy teaching it. Everyone seems to enjoy learning it.
Lara, one more thing on the course that I really learned and really aided my entrepreneurship journey was I always knew that the different structures in which you can set up a business, and I always favored PTY, sort of a private company structure. And then I learned that, hey, like being a sole proprietor in a certain time period of your business is not a bad thing. And you kind of think, the tax is kind of just going to accumulate, and I'd rather pay a flat rate. But how it's about the timing of your business, and maybe now's not the right time to convert to a private company. What is your experience been in sort of with that front, and how businesses set up structurally? Can you speak into that, and even just some of your experience working with any of the students?
Absolutely. And I think where you started saying, we all think when we start a business, we need to go to the CIPC, register a private business, and that's what we need to do. But you pay for all of that. You pay to do it, to make sure it's done correctly. And then there are legalities that come around that every year, where you have to submit returns, you have to have a separate bank account, you now have your own SARS profile for the business. It's a lot more around that.
Yeah.
But we all instinctively think, well, I'm starting a business, I need to register a private business. But that isn't necessarily true. You can absolutely run as a sole proprietor, which means running in your personal name.
Yeah.
So you as, or me as Lara, will be Lara for my personal income and my personal expenses, as well as the Figure Academy for the Figure Academy's income and the Figure Academy's expenses. And from a tax perspective, that gets submitted as one tax return. So it's one ginormous one where you have personal at the top and business at the bottom. Whereas the moment you're a private business or a private company, you have two separate tax returns, one personally and one for your business. But from a tax perspective, it's actually more tax effective to stay as a sole proprietor for the beginning little while, however long it takes you to build up that revenue and that profit and get it going, because you will pay less tax, absolutely. It's also, you think, oh, I'd rather pay a flat rate of 28% in a company than whatever percentage you're at in the sliding scale of the personal tax bracket. But actually, when you're operating as a sole proprietor, all of those deductions, all of those expenses that you're allowed to minus for your business, you can still get as you operate as a sole proprietor.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean because you're operating in your personal name that you can't get those. You absolutely still can. So you're still reducing your business's income by those expenses, and so you're lowering your tax. So I've seen some of my students actually registered businesses and realized, whoa, I'm not actually at the point where this is beneficial. They pause, they transfer everything over to their personal name, go back as a sole proprietor. You can leave the company dormant, and then once they get to that point, they'll just go back to that point. But at least for now, they're not paying that flat 28% in tax. They'll be paying less. And so I have seen that happen, but I've also seen sole proprietors go into private companies, because for them it's definitely more beneficial.
It makes more sense, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's, again, just analyze, not everybody's situation's the same.
Absolutely.
And I think that comes back down to what our first point in this conversation was, that 80% that you don't necessarily know about. And I think that falls part of a lot of people's 80% is, okay, how do I actually choose, a business structure that's right now going to serve what I'm doing the best. I think those insights are great.
Exactly.
But looking at sort of year 2, year 3 for the Figure Academy, what's on the cards? What can we keep our eyes peeled for?
So the rest of this year, I have started a blog, which I'm really excited about. That was something that I wasn't in place in 2021. So I'm really excited about that, and I'll be sharing a bunch of free resources and checklists on that. So it's just kind of growing the information base sort of thing, so that you don't only get tips and advice from social media, but you also get it through a blog, and you can get access to it on my website. So I've implemented that. But there's a couple of new courses launching. So like you said, the Nail Your Business Numbers is our flagship one. But based on the feedback from the Nail Your Business Numbers course and the students, and seeing what's actually going on in their businesses, I've also realized that there's some other courses that solve immediate needs. And so I'm busy building those. And so those will launch throughout the year in different stages. So those are the two things that I'm really looking forward to. But these courses are going to be really, really great, and they serve that immediate need.
Yeah. I think it's just so cool to kind of like see the Figure Academy from when you started to where it is now. And once in a conversation we had, like when you sort of kind of your like marketing funnel, the Nail Your Business, that course was actually kind of sits at the bottom of your funnel. It's like the last thing you want people to convert to, and now you kind of like going back up the funnel with your smaller, the smaller courses and the smaller things that people can convert on, which I think is, again, it just speaks to the fact that not every business follows the same trajectory, but there are so many different ways to achieve something, and I think it's also, as you go along, you learn more about your customer, and you learn more about like what are those other needs that you are able to serve. And sometimes only once you're in something, you actually like start to really understand the market, and you have first-hand experience and exposure to that market. Is there anything you'd like to sort of share on that?
You hit the nail on the head. And when I launched a year ago, I launched with something, and that was a Nail Your Business. You have to start somewhere. So that was where I started. And that was just where I persevered and pushed through for the whole of last year, because I thought I need to get this right, take all the feedback from all the students and make this the best possible course that it can be. But once now that is set up and running smoothly, and I'm really happy with how that course is set up, and the content that it provides and the knowledge that it shares, then I thought to myself, okay, how can we now expand this product offering? What are the needs? What am I seeing the majority of the questions are? The majority of the pain points, the majority of the issues. Where are those points that I can now go and address and solve that need? But if I hadn't pushed through on the Nail Your Business numbers, I wouldn't actually have that knowledge. And so I guess my advice there is actually just start with something in your business. Just take one product and start with it. The rest you will figure out as you go. And it's taken me a year to figure out what the next courses need to be. And a year ago, if you'd said to me, Lara, oh, it'll take you a year to build your next course, I would have said, nah, that's too long. No, in 3 months, there'll be another one. But I'm actually so glad that I didn't have that approach or that mindset, and I just kind of carried on. And now I can really provide courses that actually solve an imminent need. And so I'm very excited. I must say, I'm really, really excited for the ones that are to come this year. And I think your listeners will really enjoy them too.
No, I think so too. I love what you were saying about just starting, and sometimes you kind of want to start with all the answers, and have the 5, 10-year, 20-year plan laid out. But if, the last 2 years and a bit have taught us anything, is that your plan can be very quickly thrown to the wind.
Exactly.
But I love that. Just start. Just keep, putting that one foot in front of the other, and it's kind of like the answers will be realized, and it will be made. Things will be made more clear. This is what the next step, and this is how I really serve the person that I want to be serving through my offering. So I think there's some really good gold in there that the listeners are gonna take from that. But Lara, for anybody who's wanting to connect with you, connect with the Figure Academy, how do they do that? Where do they find you?
You can find me on social media, the Figure Academy, nice and easy. And otherwise, my website, figureacademy.co, and all my contact details, etc. are there. So it's there, it's very easy. But I fill my Instagram and my Facebook with as much tips and knowledge and insight as possible. It's not just a page about me or a sales page. It's a page that if you follow, you genuinely will learn things, and that's my goal with those pages.
Awesome.
So
Awesome. Well, thanks, Lara. Thanks for your insight and your time. We always enjoy these conversations with you, and from myself and the Jumpstart team, we wish you everything of the best for this next year and everything that's to launch, and we'll just always be cheering for you. But thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me, Tammy, and the rest of the Jumpstart team.